Hi everyone, welcome to our series on the book of Romans. I'm really excited to share with you one of my personal favorite verses in the book of Romans, and that's Romans 8:28. Well, let's start at verse 26 to get some context first. So let's read this together. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And he who searches hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. You know, all of us as believers go through trials and tribulations in our lives. We go through suffering, we go through persecution, and the world goes through trials as well. Now, what's the difference between when a believer goes through trials versus an unbeliever? Well, the answer is found in Romans 8:28, that God's working everything for the believer's good. Now, before I explain exactly what Romans 8:28 means, let's go back to Romans chapter 5, because that gives us some insight on this verse. Romans 5, starting in verse 3. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Romans 5 tells us that we should rejoice in sufferings because God's doing something beautiful in our lives. He's producing character. Now that character is described in Romans 8:28 and 29. 8:29 says, "For those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, in order that he might be the firstborn among many brothers." The good that God is doing in all the events in our lives, everything he is working towards this singular goal, to make us like his Son, Jesus Christ, in our character. Now, that is the greatest thing God could do for us. You know, when the fall happened, the image of God was marred. And so now God's restoring us back to that image of God, because the perfect human is Jesus Christ. But he's also doing even more than that, because Jesus is both God and man. So God is actually imparting to us his character. So that's the greatest thing God could do for us. So in every single trial, tribulation, everything you face in this life, you can rejoice, because God is working it for good to make you like his Son, Jesus. And that's why in verses 26 through 27, he says that he's given us the Holy Spirit to help us process these things. The Holy Spirit will help us understand how God's using this for good in our lives. So I hope this encourages you and shows you what encouragement and hope we have as followers of Jesus. For more information on witnessing to cults and other religions, go to our website, pleasetellmethetruth.org.